Merci d'être que nous toutes nous là. Je dis en son plaisir lié. This is a very important workshop. Ça c'est un workshop qui est extrêmement important parce que l'Ibral tendait plainte nous et pour nous travailler ensemble pour nous changer le loyer, surtout les gens qui sont dans le loyer. This is a very important workshop because we are going to we're doing some cleanup in the ordinance when it pertains to tenants, and we want to share with you owners, tenants and owners of the changes that are going to take place, and we want to hear from you. Nous voulons tendre ça nous-mêmes nous pour dire nos changements qu'a fait yo, parce qu'en réalité nous-mêmes nous travaillons pour communauté, pour les gens qui résident dans notre Miami. We are working for you. Whatever we do, we need your input in it. Quelque chose ça n'a fait, il faut que nous tendions opinion nous. Okay, sur you. Mr. Louis, who is our official translator, unfortunately is not here, so I will replace him as much as I can. Monsieur Louis qui est censé traducteur officiel dans ville là, il pas là, il juste West Palm Beach. Alors moi-même m'a fait tout ça capable de quoi pour capable assurer traduction pour nous-mêmes. D'accord? Thank you. Mr. Manager. Madame Attorney? Go ahead. Oh, peut-être l'étape bon pour m'introduire d'abord. Let me introduce those that are here so you know who you're dealing with. We have Councilwoman Keys. She represents District 2. And we have Councilwoman Steril. She represents District 4. C'est Madame Councilwoman Carol Keys que nous avons là, qui représente District 2, et Councilwoman Marie-Arlande Steril qui représente District 4 dans la ville là. Et certainement nous avons City Manager, Monsieur Steven Johnson. Nous avons, you have the City Attorney, nous avons City Attorney, Madame Régine Monestime. Nous avons, I can't remember her name. Sharon. C'est lui-même qui dans zoning. Building and zoning, c'est lui-même que nous ouais. Et nous avons monsieur Fritz Armand qui là, c'est lui-même qui dans le département housing non. Donc l'un qui peut-être fait mal, c'est des côtés pour nous capable venir et certainement I'm not sure Jennifer. C'est lui-même qui assistant c'est lui-même qui assisté madame Monestime dans bureau avocat pour ville là. OK?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of North Miami. We're very happy that you are able to join us to discuss what we believe is a very, very important chapter in our code. That is Chapter 5. Particularly this evening, we're going to focus on our new proposed ordinance, which is called Landlord Tenant Registration. What it will do is require landlords to register and receive a license every time they rent a particular unit. And it will require the landlords to allow the city officials to enter into the premises to ensure that the premises are livable spaces that we would love to have our families and friends live into. I mean, we care about this community. We want our entire community to live in a place that's safe, in a place that's habitable, and in a place that we can be proud of. So tonight we're looking for your input into what we hope would be a new and great journey for the city. The proposed ordinance is, oh, I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. I forgot you're translating.
Avocat dit comme ça que nous prenons nous travail nous manier ordonnance qui dans chapitre 5 dans moment loi et ville et qui gagne pour ouais avec moun qui loué caille avec mettre caille et une là dedans c'est permis que pral demander mettre caille yo chaque fois que yo pral louer caille là, c'est-à-dire que avant que ou dit que un appartement ou bien caille li en état pour capable louer faut qu'on permis dans ville là de quoi pour nous même pour nous assurer nous que caille ça son caille côté moun capable habiter. Ça qui est important pour nous même dans ville là c'est que si c'est nous même qui va louer caille nous il faut que yo ba nous tout respect que nous mériter. Donc nous même dans ville là comme on t'a dit déjà n'a travail pour nous mêmes et il est extrêmement important de quoi pour loi li capable faire de façon pour protéger nous mêmes qui payer loyer chaque mois. Madame Attorney. You can have my seat if you want to.
That's okay. Okay, so I think maybe one way we can begin this evening is to hear from the audience. And for those of you who wish to express their comments, questions about the landlord-tenant registration, or really anything that deals with building maintenance, we'd love to hear from you. You can just come to this podium here.
Si nous avons commencé par tendre nous-mêmes, ça nous gagne pour nous capable dire complète que nous gagnons par rapport à l'autre nous. Et ensuite, qu'on est là pour nous capable, avant que nous capable continuer, nous capable utiliser là et parler créole. Moi là pour nous capable traduire pour nous, nous pas besoin de parler créole parce que son langue officielle liée dans Miami-Dade County. Donc nous capable adresser nous en créole, expliquer qui problème que nous gagnons qui fait que nous là avec caille que nous louer. Qui est-ce qui vient en premier? Viens. Go ahead. Okay, before you speak, you state your name and address. Avant que nous parler, n'a bay non nous avec qui côté que nous habiter. You can use this mic over there.
Marie Samuel, 12725 Northeast 12th Avenue, North Miami, 33161. This chapter thing that we're supposed to talk about, are we supposed to talk before you tell us about it?
Yeah, we'd like to hear from you, I guess, Madam Attorney,
Yeah.
and then we'll go through it because there you probably have some ideas of changes that you would like to see, or addition things that we probably have overlooked that you would like to mention. So that's the idea.
Well, off the top of my thinking, which she just said, first of all, that's a very good idea. I've been trying to do that with some other idea with when somebody goes to turn on the water or the water, we should have, the city should have some sort of a paper to make them sign that their garbage is taken care of and that similar to what you're doing here with this other thing, but you caught it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking of doing it when the individual person goes in, because see, landlords are tricky. And they can go in for the person, or the person could go in for them. And I'm sure that you know how to handle it. But my question is, do we have many Section 8s in our town?
Okay. Question li besoin connaît est-ce que grand pile section 8 dans ville là et il dit que mettre caillou le plus souvent c'est mettre dame que surtout le par exemple nous pas appliquer de quoi pour ba nous de l'eau dans caille là. Do we have many Section 8s in the city, Mr. Manager?
We do not have a number, but I would say on 6th Avenue, a great number of, and other areas, a great number of our apartments are on some sort of program. And I want to say that that's not a bad thing. Actually, that is a good thing because Section 8, as an administration, has rules and regulations. So we're becoming more familiar with those rules and regulations to report back to them so that they could give warning to the apartment owners. And also, there's a state incentive that several of the apartments have that are not Section 8, wherein if they give a reduce or a rental program that's within a range, they get incentives. Again, one of the requirements is that they're up to code and that their building is up to par. So we're getting more familiar with that so we can start to report to these agencies that the apartment owners are not compliant.
Yeah. Alors, question c'est surtout dans 6e avenue, il y a un pile appartement qui fait partie d'un programme quelconque et il dit que c'est pas un bagage qui est tellement mauvais parce que appartement ça yo qui dans programme là et bien gouvernement obligé à assurer li que moun yo respecter code pour moun capable vivre dans appartement ça yo. Donc le plus souvent yo obligé mettre caillou respecter loi pour yo capable kebe kay ça yo le ranger ou le nécessité tout.
My further question is, what does that mean? Do they have do we have authority over them, and will they report to us, or are we just going to like you said, get involved with theirs? Are we going to have a control over them?
Over who?
The people running Section 8. I don't know who does it, if it's the county or who, but if they're living in our city,
Section 8 is a state-funded program.
okay.
And so the tenants who, if they are a Section 8 recipient, have a lot of leeway that they may not be familiar with and educated on because it's just anticipated that the apartment owner is doing the right thing. So a lot of tenants don't know that they can report a slumlord to their Section 8 representative or social worker, and they in return could put the owner on notice. So it's just educating on all facets. We as a city, I'm being educated as well to know that these programs require that the buildings are at a certain level. So we're using outside resources to help us as well.
Okay, thank you.
Alors, est-ce que gen l'autre moun, est-ce que gen l'autre moun qui vle faire me connaît que nous tout qui là, nous là pour ça justement. Si nous pas parler kounye là, pas plein et puis devant. Nous avons opportunité de quoi pour nous expliquer exactement qui problème que nous gagnons. Yes sir.
My name is Clovis Debris. My name en anglais, après je m'appelle créole.
Adresse où?
Anglais m'écoute. OK. Non mais again encore, my name is Clovis Debris. Pour que ça fait mine là, c'est me section 8, dans section 8 mettre kay là lui-même tout ça gâté dans kay là, il refuse de ranger. Donc oh, sorry. My address is 451 Northeast 136 Street, apartment 420, Miami, Florida 33161.
Excusez-moi, est-ce que vous pouvez répéter ça?
Ouais.
Répétez
Ouais,
l'adresse là pour nous écrire. Pour...
Connais?
Répétez l'adresse là, s'il te plaît.
Adresse là?
Uh-huh.
OK. Adresse là, c'est 451 Northeast 136 Street, appartement 420, Miami, Florida 33161.
OK, merci.
OK. Bon. Et qui fait, j'ai 1 mois, 7 jours, depuis de l'eau entre dans le caille là.
For the past month and
De
7
l'eau entre dans le
days,
caille là, dans côté de l'eau a sorti.
my house has
Pour
been
remettre
flooded.
caille là, il était pas arrêté une seule fois, l'aide doit te faire paraître. Il
I had
ouvre, il
called
soit
the
cher,
tenant.
il dit c'est là.
I had called the owner, and he told me that it was because of the dishwasher that was leaking. Continue now.
Bon, monsieur pas arrêté une seule fois dans caille là.
He came only
Il ouvre, il
once.
dit soit cher, il dit c'est dans le dishwasher de l'eau à
He opened the
La-
dishwasher and said, "This is where the problem is."
Bon, il dit la retourner venir ranger ça gâté dans caille là, il pas jamais retourner pour jusqu'à nos jours.
He said he
L'eau
would
monte
come
au
back.
ça dans caille là.
He said he would come back to fix the issue, and he never came back. The house is totally flooded.
Bon. Étant donné que là c'est dans la section 8 lié, moi la section 8, inspecteur venu pendant 2 fois, une première fois, une deuxième fois. Il
Since
venu,
the house is part of Section 8, I called the inspectors. They came once and twice.
m'pa connaît qui ça section 8 dit avec lui, coulier a m'gain mal dans côté avec lui les 3 mars et puis moi c'est me connais c'est section qui écrit moi m'dal dans côté pour moi même personnellement connais c'est lui même qui sont moi. Et donc c'est tout à fait me gâter dans cas là.
The inspector came once and came twice and never came back. Everything that I have in the house is spoiled. And I was under the impression that Section 8 had sued them. And I found out I have to go to court with him, and he's the one who's suing me. on March 3rd. I have to go to court. He has the paper here. We can give it to Madam Attorney. Monsieur Dubreus?
Alors, Koulia, je connais, après bon Dieu, c'est l'État. On veut une complainte pour monsieur, parce que, bon, quand là même, on rate mort de madame en droite. On rate mort de madame en droite. Qu'on est en droite là, il presque pas de faire rien avec lui. C'est moi qui mette chercher du pansement, mettez sous lui, et puis m'bali, on va faire 2 degrés en piscine, lui pour un qui fait droite là, commencer. Bon, Koulia.
After God, I know it's the government, and I'm trying to see who can help in that situation. There's a rat who bit my wife in the finger, and we had to give her antibiotics in order for the finger to heal.
Deuxième.
Vas-y.
Allez, continue.
Yes.
Deuxièmement, quand elle a son caille capette lié, contrat qu'elle a été signé pour monsieur, les m'a prendre dans caille là, me dit m'pas prendre caille là parce que caille là c'est caille capette lié. Monsieur dit pendant dans caille là, la petite capette là, il pas jamais tué capette là. C'est ça qui fait qu'on se avec qui vient dans caille là, ça fait toujours une malpropriété, excusez-moi l'expression.
When I rented the house, it was carpeted, and he told me once I move in, he's gonna remove the carpet, and he has never done so. That is why the apartment is dirty, and there's plenty of roaches in there.
Bon. Deuxièmement, monsieur, prime de l'eau car la priorité de payer, section 8 décembre prière depuis le 1er octobre. Bon, monsieur Paté. Monsieur, section 8, pas de voyer papier, bon, moi, qu'on a ce monsieur qui recevoir papier, il toujours style à continuer pour même force l'argent de qu'on paye là. Qu'on y a là, il touche 4 mois pour 2 mois.
The section 8 have sent a letter to say that the co-payment that I have to do, that I was doing, has been reduced. He got the letter since October. He never told me anything. So I kept on paying him the same amount of money that I was paying when I moved in. And it's like I've paid 4 months. I paid him 4 months over than what he's supposed to be getting.
Bon, cool. Voilà.
OK. C'est tout, que toujours? Non, pas de parler cigarette toujours.
OK. Voilà, monsieur lui-même, ça le gagne depuis le mois d'octobre, il touche octobre, novembre, décembre. Ça fait couler l'argent dans la dit après mettre l'argent en bac, qu'on a l'argent. 4 mois, il kembe octobre, novembre, décembre. Couler c'est mois de février, mais l'argent là, quand il a obtenu, il n'est pas jamais venu. Il va jamais venir. Qu'on a, étant donné que les 3 mars, il y a mal dans côté avec lui, je connais qui ça l'a pas dit, parce que c'est monsieur certainement lié, je connais qui ça l'a pas dit, qui ça l'a pas dit. Alors, je viens côté nous, pour nous connaître, et que qui ça n'a dit dans l'affaire avec ça pour moi, s'il vous plaît.
Merci. I'm here to seek for help, to see what you can do to help me. I've paid him. The only month that has not been paid yet is the month of February. He has not showed up this month to pick up his money. And I'm hoping that you folks will be able to help me.
Je peux dire toute furniture, l'eau mouillée, toute l'eau prend, tout qu'on a, tout bail pour une sans pour 8 si on tombe coulier là.
All my furnitures are spoiled because of the water. There's nothing, they cannot be used anymore. Okay. Merci, Monsieur Dubreus. Okay.
Bon, on a là, merci.
You have question? Anybody has questions for him?
His contact information. I have a contact at Section 8 who's been working to build a stronger relationship with the city on issues related to him so that we can coordinate whether it's a response or services or additional assistance or even clarification. So if I have his contact information and possibly with the assistance Fritz to help with the translation if that's needed, we could try to make that phone call tomorrow to figure out what's the status of your situation, where are you, where you need to go, and then we can walk you through the process.
Okay.
because there's a distinction between our program and what the city can do and what Section 8 covers as well.
Sous bay nous contact parce que nous gagnons relation que nous avons développé avec Section 8. Demain nous capable faire un coup de fil de quoi pour nous connaître qui monde qui est en charge de dossier, puis on connaît exactement ça qui a passé avec dossier pour là et puis on capable dire qui côté au praler etc. Donc on a quitté non avec téléphone ou de quoi pour demain pour venir pour on capable commencer travailler sur dossier là.
Okay.
D'accord?
And I just had one quick question. Was the inspector that he was dealing with one of our inspectors? If so, then if I have the name. then we can
Inspecteur qui te
coordinate the
vient la
information.
caillou, c'est un inspecteur city en que lié?
Pardon?
Inspecteur dit qu'il te vient la caillou 2 fois. C'est un inspecteur city en que lié?
Oui,
C'est ici dans ville notre Miami à la travail?
oui.
Monsieur qui te vient la caillou 2 fois ou dit?
Oui, ils viennent des fois.
Qui est-ce qui est moun city en là?
Mon section 8, mon pas
Okay,
connaît.
so then we'll
Inspecteur, inspecteur.
So we'll
He's not sure. He said Section 8, but
Inspecteur section
he was
8,
an
c'est
inspector.
venu.
Okay, we just wanted to
Section 8.
clarify.
Il y a eu une première fois, il y a eu une deuxième fois. Jusqu'au troisième fois, parce que les toilettes là étaient bouchées pendant 1 mois. Je ne sais pas de jamais venir. C'est l'inspecteur à venir, il fait manœuvre, il débouche les toilettes là.
My bathroom was clogged
Premièrement,
for
c'est
1
toilettes
month.
là qui étaient bouchées avant.
The owner never showed up until the inspector came. Then he, he worked it out and make it work.
Okay, so we'll follow up tomorrow. Section
Section
8.
8 inspector, ok. Monsieur Dubreus, merci. Il y a l'autre monde encore qui voulait parler?
Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Et moi salue le panel là et moi salue le magistrat aussi. Et non pas M. Dumont Paul qui a parlé au nom qui résidait dans 132 85 Nord-Est 6e avenue.
My name is Dumont Paul. Répétez l'adresse de moi, Monsieur Paul.
Résidait dans 132 85 Nord-Est 6e avenue.
13285 Northeast 6th Avenue.
Et moi j'étais dans ça presque 15 ans.
Been living there for almost 15 years.
Et depuis 15 ans que moi réellement a subi un pile bagaille dans là, leur besoin de service ou pas qu'à joindre service facile dans mes honnêtes appartements.
For the past 15 years, I've been victimized by the owner of the apartments. Whenever you need services, you cannot find them.
Et moi à vivre ensemble avec madame moi plus moi gagne 5 petits moun qui vivent ensemble avec moi dans appartement ça.
I'm living with my wife and 5 children in the apartments.
Et moi fait plusieurs tentatives pour moi si me acheter un cahier dans city et dans city là après tout mouvement que me fin faire montrer me cahier bon moi tout bagaille en dernier moment on dit moi pas qualifié pour me acheter cahier là.
I have done a lot of efforts in order to purchase a house in the city, and after all the paperwork went through, at the last minute they told me that I was not qualified.
Et raison qui cause nous là soir c'est juste c'était pour 26 décembre pendant que nous étions couchés à 2h du matin, 2h entre 3h du matin et police officier North Miami t'a frappé porte caille nous et il t'a dit nous pour nous sortir en emergency et c'est là ça m'a été pendant endormi que me t'ai joindre caille là t'es inondé avec de l'eau.
The reason why I'm here is because on December the 26th, it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. A City of North Miami police officer knocked on my door and told us that we have to get out. And then I realized the apartment was flooded.
Et depuis les années, moi et madame, moi, Timonio, nous tous t'es sortis et nous pas de chance pour nous te retourner pour rien encore. Simplement, nous t'es sortis avec rad que nous t'avons dormi sur nous simplement.
Since then, we've been out of the apartments. We were not allowed to return to the apartments in order to get our personal belongings.
Et qui ça qui te cause ça, c'était mettre appartement qui te ailleurs une compagnie roofing pour te faire service roof là dans appartement et pas de gagner un monde qui était dans appartement qui était au courant rien de ça.
The reason why all this happened is because the owner of the apartments have hired a company for the roofing, and he had not told anybody that they were gonna have work done.
Ou just rete les fin autant de yon drill cap driller sous do roof là c'est leur sortie de yo ou est-ce roof là a fait.
You're just sitting there and you hear some noise on the top of the house, and then when you get out, that's when you realize that they're working on the roof.
Et là ça nous jour 26 décembre ça nous t'ai passé journée en bas la pluie et magistrat Lucie était là ensemble avec nous dans toute la pluie il t'a essayé aider nous et jusqu'à 8 et 9 du soir que nous t'ai joindre un côté pour nous aller dormir.
That December 26th, we spent the entire day under the rain. the mayor was there with us trying to find a solution until 9 o'clock at night.
Et là, ça, tout essai que tout le monde était obligé de faire pour te joindre Maître Kaela, que pas de gens qui te joindre Maître Kaela, seulement un building manager qui te représenté Maître Kaela, et c'est lui-même qui t'a monté, qui descend ensemble avec nous, qui t'a baillé parole, mais parole n'a pas satisfait nous.
And we did everything we could in order to get in touch with the owner of the building. He was nowhere to be found, besides a manager that he has to represent him, who was going back and forth, not telling us anything concrete.
Et building manager qui était c'était Roberto qui était dit nous si toutefois nous gagnons une famille ou sinon nos amis ou sinon n'importe côté que nous capable joindre un côté pour nous dormir nous capable payer et mettre building là après mettre nous comme ça back.
The building manager's name is Roberto. He told us that if we could make arrangements with friends or family members to go and live there, the building manager will reimburse us for the time that we're going to spend at these people's house.
Et dès là étant ça t'est venu faire un paquet et monter descendre parce que pas de monde qui était capable de gagner pièce information qui ça cap régler qu'il est et pas qu'il est que appartement a fini et ça t'est obligé de faire moi faire 21 jours abdomen dehors ensemble avec madame moi petite moi et yo t'es même arrivé me perdre travail moi parce que me travaille pour ma amie de Kani. Lorsque me te pour me le travail me pas capable de travail parce que tout uniforme était en dedans que me perdi une semaine de travail tout.
That thing was very difficult on us, and I had I missed 1 week of work. Nobody were able to tell us when we were going to get back to the apartment, and I worked for the county. All my uniforms were inside of the apartment, so I had to miss work for an entire week.
Et m'te continué après les jusqu'à ce que le 15 janvier yo te dit l'mte vinn dans office ça yo dit comme ça appartement nan prêt moi mettre retourner dans appartement nan.
It wasn't until January the 15th when I went to the office that told me that my apartment was ready, that I was able to move back in.
Et yo te dit moi comme ça que mettre Kaela attend moi dans appartement et c'est là que moi arrivé moi te reconnaître mettre Kaela.
I was told that the owner of the building was waiting for me, and it wasn't until I got there that for the first time I've met him.
Et moi te réellement saisi pour me te Jean mettre Kaela son monde qui sage lorsque moi te retourné dans appartement. Et il était réellement parlé avec moi que m'pas de gens au courant de lui-même du tout et là ça moi j'étais très content tout mais la seule chose même jour que moi retourner dans l'appartement et pour Covid fait rien dans l'appartement il était pour mettre moi la fixer toute bagaille que moi t'ai gagné qui dommagé dans l'appartement.
I was very surprised and pleased to see that the apartment owner was a very nice person. He spoke with me. But in the same token, he had promised to fix certain other things in the apartment that he had not kept his promises.
Ça qui est étrange pour moi, c'est même jour que moi retourner en appartement pour que même bagaille les fini, c'est là ça mais l'appartement te dit moi dois le 2 mois faut que moi payer comme ça.
The very same day that I returned to the apartment while the apartment was not up to code for me to move in, the owner told me that I owe him 2 months that I needed to pay.
Parce que c'était 26 décembre là que me d'avoir le payer les fini bagaille là tout passé que me pas gain chance pour me payer mois décembre.
I was going to pay on December 26 when the incident happened, so I didn't have a chance to pay for the month of December.
Et le ça moi te dit qu'on ça me passé 21 jours dehors et 21 jours et qui ça l'a dit avec côté m'd'ab dormir parce que m'te fait un arrangement ensemble avec mon côté m'd'al dormir.
I told him at that time that I have spent 21 days outside of the apartments. What is he going to say about it? Because I had to make arrangements where I was living with my wife and kids.
Et m'pas gain possibilité pour m'tal dans hôtel parce que m'pas gain crédit carte ni débit carte ni rien pour m'te capable dans hôtel mettre appartement te dit si m'gain récit qui sorti dans hôtel seulement yo capable mettre moi comme ça mais otherwise dit pas ka faire rien pour moi.
I don't have a credit card, so I was not able to go to a hotel, and the apartment owner told me only if I have a receipt that shows that I was staying at a hotel he will reimburse, otherwise I'm not getting a penny.
Et il était décidé pour le retirer 600 combien dollars dans cob là dans 2 mois t'es venu pour $950. Il était décidé pour te retirer $650 et pour me payer reste là.
The 2 months amount of $950, he had decided to deduct $600 from it.
Ça t'est réellement m'était confuse parce que m'était déjà fait un arrangement avec un monde pour me payer $125 par jour pour me capable héberger ensemble avec toute famille moi.
I got very confused because I had made arrangements with someone where I was paying him $125 a day for me, my wife, and the children.
Et la bombe simplement $600 que moi pas de gain reste comme là pour me mettre pour me payer côté me dormir.
He said he was going to give me $600, which is not even enough for me to pay where I was living during the time I was outside of my apartment.
Et comme ça t'est obligé de faire moi t'es consulté avec un office cabinet avocat.
So that made me get in touch with an attorney.
Et depuis là ça que moi pas aucune chance pour me capable payer Kaela jusqu'à journée aujourd'hui et malgré ça en après que moi vinn découvrir que moi vinn une allergie sur corps jusqu'à présent que comme a gratté moi toute journée toute nuit dans nuit presque pas qu'à dormir depuis après me retourner dans appartement.
Since then I have developed an allergy since I came back to the apartment. My body's been itching me non-stop.
Et moi gagne un petit moi tout qui perdu combien jours l'école à cause même allergie à que les lever dans le matin yeux mais grosseur parce que gagne une allergie qui cause dans même appartement tout.
My kids also were not able to go back to school because when they wake up their eyes were swollen, so they were not able to go back to school.
Et jusqu'à présent que moi beaucoup payer et moi sous mouvement pour plus envie quitter appartement au lieu que moi rester là-dedans parce que me pas confortable là-dedans.
Until this day I haven't paid and I'm really would like to move out because not only I don't have the money to pay for him to him.
Et matin hier que moi joigne un papier dans porte Kaela que maître Kaela a dit que moi dois li 2000 m'pas songer pour me venir avec papier mais 2000 100 combien dollars et moins 600 combien $661 et pour me payer le reste comme ça et les bon mi notice de 3 jours eviction après 3 jours bon eviction et dans même appartement ça que moi arrêté.
I receive a 3 days notice on the apartment, an eviction notice saying that I owe them $2,000 and something dollars. Minus the $600 that he was willing to deduct for me.
Et appartement nous vini gagner met building nan qui réellement a fait tout effort pour le bail service et avec monde qui était dans appartement mais c'est après bagay là li réellement nice ensemble avec nous mais avant que le acheter building nan ni l'autre honneur qui était dans building nan c'est tout un paquet trajet pour ta joindre service dans même building nan leur demander yo.
It's only after the fact that now the owner is trying to be nice to the tenants of the building. Before the incident happened, either this one or the previous owners, whenever you have a problem with the apartments, they were nowhere to be found.
Et jusqu'à présent mettre building n'a a essayé faire tout effort pour capable fixer tout ça que nous avons besoin ni réellement faire quelque travail dans appartement réellement mais jusqu'à présent est conditionné avant hier que moi venir moi joindre conditionné à on et yo dit mon appartement te vinn travailler dans est conditionné à mettre on pendant toute journée il pas jambe cool en dedans là.
They said they are really trying to put the building up to code. The other day they told me that somebody came to the apartment to fix the air conditioning that was on all day long and it never cooled the apartment.
Et ça qui était réellement plus fait que moi était réellement aller consulter un cabinet avocat c'est parce que nous étions dans appartement nous supposés collaborer ensemble et mettre appartement pas avec des pièces monde qui des pièces travail comme ça qui t'a pas fait dans appartement et négligence ça t'est passé à sortir de mettre appartement avec compagnie t'a fait roof là.
The reason why I went and seek legal aid it's because the building owner has never been there and what happened on December 26th it's not the tenant's fault it's the negligence of the building owner and the roofing company.
Et en dernier moment après toute bagaille là t'es fin passé que il t'a dit qu'il pas payer hôtel pour nous encore ça t'a réellement fait me fâcher.
After everything that happened he said that he was not going to pay hotel for us. That made me really upset.
But et suis sûr que moi gagné yon les 3 jours notice et m'pas gagné réellement et pour me capable payer là et moi gagné 3 jours notice et moi gagné famille moi gagné des petits monde qui dans high school et m'gain des petits monde qui na 3 petits monde qui na high school là-dedans yo et demain c'est peut-être ou capable tout bagaille moi dans la rive, c'est une raison qui cause moi venir là disons me connaît que nous capable gagner on parole qui capable dire sur ça et nous ta réellement content si toutefois droit monde qui était dans notre Miami non seulement dans building ça et tenant yo capable respecter dans notre Miami.
The reason why I'm here today is because I have a 3 days notice and I have 2 children that are in high school. Maybe tomorrow I might get into my apartment and find all my belongings outside, and I'm here to ask you how you can help me because this is none of my fault.
Merci.
Thank you. Question?
Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Bonsoir. Non, moi c'est Néerland Jean.
Un moment, Madame Charles.
Yeah, just for the gentleman, he does have, there are landlord and tenant rights that he could, we can put him in contact with someone at the police department to help him understand the landlord-tenant rights when it comes to evictions. There is a process that he's allowed to go through. Major Burden is here, so in the back, so maybe she could give him some information on his rights.
Okay. Nous ka mettons en contact avec représentant de la police département qui gagne pour avec droit ou en tant que locataire et propriétaire. Si vous pas capable d'être comme ça du jour au lendemain, puis vous capable mettre au dehors. Donc nous allons mettre en contact avec Major Burden qui là, nous allons mettre en contact avec lui, il a besoin exactement ça pour faire. Madame Charles.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
S'il vous plaît, essayez de faire histoire de nous, j'en picoute. Pour moi, s'il te plaît.
OK. Non, moi c'est Néerland Jean. Moi j'étais dans 54 Northeast 124 Street.
My name is Landlord Charles. I live in 544 Northeast. C'est combien?
124.
124th Street.
OK. Monsieur a m'te payé pour mois d'octobre là. Il était venu toucher. Le venu toucher, moi dit le conseil que air conditionné a pas bon. 5 nan badoum nan a couler de l'eau. Par en bas, m'y a 3 ti moun nan kay la. Kon y a la, m'di le conseil que pour le voyon moun vin ranger bagay yo pour moi. Kon y a la mois de novembre le vini m'di m'pa payer parce que m'get ti moun en dedans yo ka sot tomber en dedans dans yo ka bagay en dedans. Kon y a la OK li vire. Le viré le 22 li couper courant c'est moi qui paye courant, li couper de l'eau. Kon y a le mois ça le 24 m'rele police. Le m'rele police, qu'on y a police dit comme ça que il pas supposé
Madame
fermer de l'eau.
Bon une seconde pour me traduire.
Oh my goodness,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Back in October, there was a leak in the apartment, and the air conditioning was not working. When the landlord came to get his rent money, I told him he needed to fix those because I have small children in the house. If he didn't, I was not going to pay him anymore until he fixed them. So he never came back. And I told him that, no, he came back, he cut the electricity and he cut the water of the apartment. Although the electricity is under my name, I'm the one paying for my electricity. He shut off the electricity and the water for me for 1 week.
Yeah, qu'on y a le m'rele police, qu'on
Then
y
I
a
called the police.
Kon y a police là aller li mande côté mi tête l'eau et me dit pas connait. Kon y a là li dit eh bien OK, on nous vire pas des buildings là.
The police went with me trying to find the water meter.
OK, kon y a li ouvrir de l'eau pour moi.
And they turned on the water for me.
OK, kon y a dans demain si Dieu veut, l'elle vini dans building là, li ouais de l'eau à ouvrir, li al fermer le bac.
When he came back the next day and found out the water was on, he went back and turned it off again.
OK, kon y a m'rele police encore.
I called the police again.
Kon y a le police vini police rele 4 fois.
The police called him 4 times.
Yeah, kon y a li pas pick up téléphone nan.
He never picked up
Kon y
the
a
phone.
police la dit comme ça, police Miami dead qui relo, retourner me call là.
They left him a message asking him to return the call.
OK, kon y a là, li pa vini le 27, L'el retourné, qu'on y a qui ça le fait, li vin longer doit être dans figure moi, les jours en beach, qu'on y a la m'rele police.
When he came back again, he started to threaten me, pointing his finger in my face and calling me BITCH.
En qu'on y a là en après le m'rete qu'on y a yo voye papier pour me sortir dans kay la.
Then he sent me a notice for me to get out of the house.
Qu'on y a là c'est tan m'attend parce que m'voye réponse en bay côte là qu'on y a m'attend pour yo dire qui ça qu'a fait.
I have written to the court and I'm just waiting to find out what I have to do. Thank you. You want some? Yeah. Okay.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Good evening.
Il y a précisément que je n'ai pas grand chose à dire. Non, c'est l'adresse même à là.
I don't have much to say, but I'm going to give you my address.
Je Pierre Jean-Louis.
My name is Pierre Jean-Louis.
Et numéro carré, c'est 126 50 Nord-10 9e Avenue.
12650 Northeast 9th Avenue.
Zip code là, c'est Florida.
It's okay.
Zip code là, that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Ok. Merci.
C'est ça seulement que pour dire?
Oui.
Ou pas de aucune complainte?
Non, précisément, pas de complainte. Je suis en contact avec comment, monsieur?
Monsieur Armand.
Fils Armand.
Okay.
Ok. Merci.
Merci. I have no complaint, but I will get in touch with Mr. Armand.
Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Non, moi c'est Félicie Jean.
My name is Félicie Jean.
Adresse moi c'est 12040.
My address is 12040
Nord-Ouest.
Northwest
15e Avenue.
15th Avenue.
Miami, Florida.
Miami.
33 167. 167.
33167.
Je vini c'est peut-être roof. Moi vini.
Okay, I came here because of a roof
Parce que j'ai un problème roof et puis il fini. Je fais une réparation dans un salon. Et puis, quand l'air pluie tombé, l'eau a tombé dans la mur.
They've done some repair in my living room, and when it's raining, the water gets into the wall.
Mais moi, je viens pour moi sinon qu'à aider, malgré qu'il y a une non-notification, mais presque bon.
Okay, although I'm trying to see if I can get help, because although my house is in the process of loan modification, it's almost there. Almost there.
Donc c'est ça que fait venir pour moi sinon tu es capable aider moi malgré me grand pile l'autre problème là qu'il a toujours même te relé à gesteur assurance poko dit ça y a dit non même te dit comme ça n'importe les assurance bon ça y a bon dans geles m'a vinn dans city pour me parler avec nous de façon pour nous ta réparer qu'il a pour nous parce que qu'il a grand pile problème.
Whenever the insurance give us whatever they have to give us, I was going to come to the city and see how you can help us because the house is filled with issues. Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Merci en pile.
Pas de moun encore? T'as seulement si ne pas parler, demain pas plein, non? Oui.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
My name is Mary Pettyholm. I'm here on behalf
I'm not going
of
to
my
translate
husband.
with you because
Yes.
you're speaking English.
No, Marie Moule, okay.
No, go ahead. No, parle en anglais. Go ahead.
Moule Marie Pettyholm. I'm here on my husband's behalf, you know. We are the homeowner.
Your address?
My address is 12530 Northeast First Court. As I say, we are a homeowner. We have a lot of problems. We have roof problem. We have leaking problem. My mom called me and told me we help out with those things. And that's the reason why I'm here. But when I came here, I said that's a different story. What mommy told me, that's totally different because we were talking about tenants, and I know I'm not a tenant, I'm a homeowner. Therefore, I want to know how we can help me with my roof, with my leaking problem. That's the only reason I'm here.
Yeah, there's a program. You can see Mr. Armand. We'll see him tomorrow. Yeah, there's a program like that in the city.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Pas gen l'autre moun encore? So, alors, for those...
Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Non, moi c'est Narline Chéri Bolivar.
My name is Nerline Chéri Bolivar.
Yeah, moi j'étais resté dans l'appartement 132, 85 Nord-Est 6e Avenue.
I used to live on 13285 Northeast 6th Avenue.
OK. Depuis un jour 26 décembre, un incident qui était passé, moi tout quitté l'appartement.
Since December 26, after the incident, I left the apartment.
Parce que moi j'étais rentré dans l'appartement novembre 2012.
I rented the apartment in November 2012.
Depuis le rentré dans l'appartement, on préfère que m'te dormi dans la rue plutôt.
From the time I moved into the apartment, I would have been better off living in the street.
Parce que plein ravette, plein rat dans Kailan.
Roaches, rats.
Rat yo pi go passe, mais yo quand même botem.
The rats are even bigger than I am.
Et si li pas bon, ou pote plainte, yo voye moun vin ranger, li pas jamais ranger vraiment.
The air conditioning is not working. Whenever you complain, they send somebody apparently, but they never really fix it.
L'el fait chaud, ouvrier si bill courant monte presque $200 par mois.
When it's hot and you turn on the AC, your electricity bills go up to $200 a month.
Bathroom nan plein monde.
The bathroom is full of mold.
Moi gen un petit garçon, li gen peau qui hyper sensible. Donc li toujours gen on série de bagaille qui a levé sous lui parce que appartement vraiment li pas propre, li pas clean.
I have a small son who has hypersensitive skin. He always have those things going on his because the apartment building is not clean.
L'on rentre dans l'appartement le senti, excusez l'expression.
When you get into the building, it stinks.
Tout ou doit observer dans de l'eau et puis you just fermer de l'eau sous ça pas tout ça.
You could be, using the water and all of a sudden they shut it down without notice.
Frigidaire pas bon.
The refrigerators are not working.
Four pas bon.
The ovens are not working.
Ou dit ça dans office là ou dit a venir ranger ou café moi pas jamais joindre rien.
When you go to the office and complain, you could spend a month without anybody showing up.
Mais depuis le mois arrivé supposé payer.
But whenever the months come, you have to pay them.
Donc leur besoin de service ou pas agent de service.
When you need service, they're never there.
25 ans en décembre c'est arrêté nous tendez bruit qu'a fait sous dos Kailan manager office son haïtien lié li pas gen yon monde qui te dit non comme ça que yo t'a fait travail sous dos Kailan.
In December, we just stayed there and we heard noise on the roof. Nobody have notified us that they were gonna do some work in the building.
25 décembre, moi dormi vers 11h du soir.
December 25th, I went to bed around 11 p.m.
Et ça fait ça, la pluie était commencé à tomber depuis le 25 décembre dans la soirée. Travail t'a fait dans roof là, Kailan tout en l'air à fond, donc t'es gen gouttière qui t'a tombé tout en dedans, donc moi t'es obligé t'a mopper de temps en temps de l'eau à vider, m't'a mopper.
The rain started on Christmas Day and through all night the water started getting into my apartments. I spent the night mopping to ensure that it stays dry.
But à 2h du matin,
around 2 o'clock in the morning,
moi entendons bruit en dedans Kailan.
I heard some noise in the apartment.
L'homme levé.
When I wake up,
moi ouais dans porte douche là yon trou qui fait et puis toute l'eau qui en l'air la tomber en dedans Kailan.
In the bathroom where the shower is, there's a big hole and water was filling the entire apartment.
Yeah, et même côté c'est police qui vient frapper porte nous qui dit nous sorti parce que il pas safe pour nous arrêter dans l'appartement.
Then immediately we heard the police knocking on the doors asking us to get out because it was not safe to stay in the apartment.
Nous sorti à rad sous nous avec saisissement, petite moi t'a dormi, moi prend avec tout pyjama sous lit potel dans saisissement nous fait émotion donc nous juste sorti comme ça, nous pas temps prendre rien.
We were so scared and then we got out with the same, with our whatever we were wearing that day. My son was still in his pajamas and everybody was in shock and we walk out.
Yeah. Là nous sorti depuis 2h du matin, la pluie a tombé nous en bas la pluie.
From 2 o'clock in the morning we were outside under the rain.
nous pas jamais les 6h, 7h, 8h du matin, nous pas jamais ouais mettre Kalan qui vient dire nous excuser sorry de ça qui est passé à.
6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, we never heard anything from the building owners to tell us we're sorry with what is happening.
Parce que c'était faute li.
Because that was his fault.
Il pas dit nous t'a pas fait travail l'avant.
He never told anybody that there was some problem with the roof or that they're going to fix it.
Donc nous fait journée depuis 2h du matin jusqu'à 6h du soir.
From 2 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening.
Manager a dit nous comme ça que c'est dans shelter pour nous aller.
The manager told us that we have to go in shelters.
Yo pas ka louer kay pour nous.
That they would not rent any apartment for us.
Mayor Lucie était là dans matin, c'est lui qui ba nous manger.
Mayor Lucie was here in the morning. She's the one who fed us.
Après ça mettre kala nous pas jamais pour aujourd'hui.
We never saw the owner until today.
Pas jamais dit excuser rien.
Never said he's sorry or anything like that.
But après ça, il était pour te dire que Kayla paré, vin dans Kayla.
He was trying to get in touch with everybody to tell us to come back.
Kayla même gens.
The house is still the same.
Porte pas ka fermer.
The doors cannot be closed.
Bathroom plein mold.
The bathrooms are full of mold.
Et yo marqué dans porte là OK ou ka vini.
And on the door it says okay, we can move back in.
Kayla senti, permettez-moi expression.
The house stinks.
Tout manger nous te gain pour décembre, tout manger ça ou gain l'eau passer en bas puis manger que dans frigidaire tout gâté.
All the food that we had in the refrigerator or in the pantries are all spoiled.
Donc nous demander s'il vous plaît pour capable gagner une amélioration pour nous-mêmes qui tenant qui habitent dans notre Miami pour au moins pour nous joindre une satisfaction, on respecte tout et pour nous joindre un respect qui sortit de Maître Caillot parce que Maître Caillot fait nous souffrir en pile spécialement haïtiens.
We need to have more respect from the owners, especially when it comes to Haitian tenants. We need things to be changed.
Merci.
Thank you. Right. Okay. Madam Attorney, Mr. Manager, no comments? No, nobody can? That's it? No more? Pas gen moun anko gagné pour yo di.
Hi, I'm Alan Cholminsky.
Non pas c'est Alan Chomensky.
Owner of 13285 Northeast 6th Avenue.
C'est moi-même qui propriétaire kay dans 13285 Northeast 6e Avenue.
I thought today was a workshop
Pensez jeudi est un workshop
where we were going to discuss the new ideas of the city.
côté que nous allons parler de nouvelles idées que ville la gagne.
I didn't know it was an open forum of speaking.
Pas de connaître c'est un forum côté monde te gen droit parler.
But now that I sat there in respect, when I wanted to hear the beautiful things the city is planning to do, I find myself having to stand up here to just make a couple comments back to a couple of comments that were made. Would you like to translate that, Ms. Mayor?
They understand.
You didn't translate it, though, what I said?
Go ahead, sir.
No? Okay. I can tell you as the city that I think it's always important. As I sit there on the side and I'm hearing two of the tenants speaking, mind you, two of the tenants that have always been late every month paying the rent and haven't paid. But
are we here for that?
Well, I think
We're
it's
not here for
I think
that,
it,
sir.
I think it's important to let everybody speak.
Sir.
I think it's important to let everybody speak.
Sir, this is not the reason we're here.
I understand. That's what I
to
thought.
listen to their complaints, and now we're going to proceed to the changes that are going to be made in the apartments.
So
I don't think you're here to divulge their financial status, and whichever, late or no late, there are some laws.
Understood.
So people have to be living in decent and human conditions. So there is nothing that you're going to say here that will justify the way these people have been living in this apartment. So please, if we can go ahead, Madam Attorney, with the changes on that chapter 5, and then maybe if you have any comments to do from those changes, we will be more than willing to listen to you. Thank you.
I think it's important. I don't know what the city attorney thinks, but I think it's important for everybody to have a chance to speak.
Well, not to divulge people's financial. Anybody that is late, you have the law on your side to defend you, and that does not justify, sir, the way that these people have been living. We've been to these apartments.
I won't continue to do that,
all
but
the
I'd like to
violations that
speak.
have been to that apartment. Please take a seat and let's go and move on, Madam Attorney.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilwoman Keys had some specific comments or questions as it pertains to the landlord-tenant registration program.
Keys.
So I don't know whether you want to go through your list.
But would you like to tell us what it is, and then we can listen to Madam Keys with her ideas from what you are proposing, if there's any suggestion or changes or... No, go with the basic, because you have a whole list out of whatever the changes she's bringing into the chapter.
Sure. The landlord-tenant registration program is a program that will require landlords to register with the city anytime they are renting their apartments.
Changement que nous pral faire dans moment loi constitution ville là, c'est que quel que soit moun qui gen building, qui gen appartement pour louer, yo obligé enregistrer avec ville là avant que yo ka louer aucun appartement.
Right. A landlord will now have to file an application with the city, pay an application fee, and upon acceptance, the landlord.
Go ahead, sir. Sir. Excuse me. Can the attorney finish speaking? Okay, then you have a chance to speak. Sir, you will have a chance to speak. You have a chance to speak.
Thank you.
Okay? Please do not interrupt again, otherwise we're going to have to remove you. Thank you. Madam Attorney, go ahead.
Upon receipt of the application, the city will inspect each of the units to ensure that they are fit for human habitation.
Une fois que fin rempli application, ville lan prale dans appartement pour visiter pour connaître est-ce que c'est côté moun capable vivre.
If the unit fails the inspection, then the city will issue a notice of violation and require the landlord to make the repairs to the particular unit.
Si par exemple, il pas passé inspection, eh bien ville lan pral bayo un papier qui dit que en violation avec code qui côté pour moun habiter yo, de quoi pour capable faire réparation qui nécessaire avant même que yo capable louer appartement ça.
If the landlord fails to apply, if the landlord fails to pass the inspection, if the landlord fails to allow the city to inspect, the landlord will not be allowed to rent the unit.
Si par exemple, yo pas ranger kay lan jan ville lan mande yo, si yo pas permettre que ville lan vienne inspecter appartement yo, eh bien mettre kay ça, li pa gen droit pour capable louer appartement.
Following a hearing, after the notice of violation, then the landlord will be assessed fines, which may rise to liens on a building.
Après ça, yo gen pour capable venir là, côté yo pral venir devant juge, et si yo continue en violation, yo pral kounye la mette ligne sous kay lan pour violation que yo capable faire, que yo fait yo.
And that essentially sums up the new program.
En réalité, c'est ça et changement dans la Constitution, dans le chapitre 5, location, locataire avec maître Kailan, c'est changement ça que nous portons pour protéger moun k'ap loué kay yo. Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Gill. I never have a complaint.
Can you identify yourself and your address, sir?
I'm Chris Gill, 575 Northeast 143, Monterey apartment. My question is, what happened with the tenant? He's coming to rent the apartment, and the apartment is 100% finished. And I'm a landlord, and I call the city and make an appointment. Okay, and the city's gonna say, okay, it's gonna take a 3 days to go there to inspect the apartment, and the tenant is ready to move in today. We're gonna lose 2-3 days rents because the city is not ready to go over there right away. That's number one. Number two.
Hold on, let me translate.
Like you said, let me finish and don't interrupt me.
Can I translate?
Okay.
Is it okay with you?
Yeah, sure, I can listen.
So the people and your future tenants can understand what you're complaining about? May I?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now,
Blanc
how
besoin
much is going
connaît,
to cost?
li dit comme ça que,
No.
demander ça qu'a passé. I need to translate so the
Okay,
people
I'm
here
sorry,
can understand.
I'm sorry.
Li besoin connaît, ça qui passe s'il gon un appartement qui tout à fait fini, qui chaud qu'on pâté que le besoin louer, et puis les citoyens pour citoyens viennent inspecter, et puis citoyens dit comme ça que ça prend 2-3 jours avant que capable venir inspecter. Ça fait 2-3 jours l'argent loyer que a perdu. Keep on
Sample.
going.
The tenant is coming to rent the apartment is ready for some reason that tenant is pay hotel because he don't have a place to live in. Thank you to the city of North Miami. It's going to cost not only to the landlord, it's going to cost more money to the tenant because he have to pay extra day in the hotel because the apartment is not ready because the city is not ready to go to inspect the apartment. That's number one. Number two, how much is going to cost the application? Because that we have to pass to the tenants. Guys, we have to understand. I understand a lot of people in the city, he don't take care of the property. I agree that you can title out these people. Hey, you have to fix out your building, or sell your building, or close your building, or do whatever you have to do. I agree with the city. But my question is, how much is going to be the application? Because that cost we have to pass to the people. And we have to understand, because I respect everyone in this room here. When you a commissioner, a mayor, people working for the city, he wait for Friday to have the paycheck, okay? A lot of tenants, he had to sacrifice his family, okay? He had to, sometimes he had to look for 2 jobs to pay the rents, because landlord, we have to raise the rents. And these people, that's what they don't understand, because when we're going to pay the water, it's more money in the city of North Miami and a lot of city. When we go to pay the taxes, it's more money. We don't pay for that. Guys, we don't, I'm the manager, I'm the owner. We don't pay for these people's salary. You guys pay. When soon you guys make more complaint for these people, we have to raise the more rents. Because these people, he's going to raise the taxes. Okay? That's, hey, not making funny, because under the day, when I ask you for you guys, give me $25 for application. We have the money. That's, hey, I do this for 20 years, and you guys, you know that's the real thing. Okay? How? I mean, are you Haitian? We have a lot of Haitian people, and I'm happy with my Haitian people. I don't want to change my tenant for nobody else. I'm happy. But you guys, he's tied it up us damn much. That's why we have to raise the rent to these poor people. I have people that he's telling me, Chris, I have the money, but listen, I have to pay for my children's shoe. I have to pay for this. And I have to say sometimes, okay, I'm giving you a chance. But you guys, when you guys writing a ticket, you guys are waiting. When you guys write taxes, you guys say, that's the taxes, that's it. And people, these people, that's the people who have to pay. The people who pay rent, because the only reason, one of the reasons why the rent in this city is so high is because our taxes really high. Because you guys going to Coral Gable, which is supposed to be the rich people living, his people pay less taxes than us. Why? Because you guys raise. Our water is ridiculously higher. Okay, now you guys putting a law. The inspector has to go over there to do inspection in the apartment. Who has to pay for that? We're not going to pay. He's not going to pay. The owner is not going to pay. The tenant is going to pay. And now you guys say, thank you. But end of the day, it's going to cost you guys money, not me. Okay? Or the other guy, the other way you guys have to move to the city. You have to go to a different city. Okay? Hey, you want to charge $100? Fine with me. $50? Fine with me. The tenant has to pay for that.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney, how much is the application?
We have not yet determined the application fees or the inspection fees or the reinspection fees. Once you can pass Chapter 5, then we will have a resolution which sets the fees.
Very good.
So
One more
we will
thing.
make recommendations to you.
Are we going to pay double for the quarter faucet? Because when we have problem, are we going to pay double now for quarter faucet? Because when we have a problem in the city, when we have a problem, okay, the tenants call the city, the code enforcers go over there, write the letter, write the ticket, whatever it is, okay? Now, what we're doing here is, we call it out just for code enforcer, okay? And the same way, code enforcer is going to make more money, okay? And the application fee. Now, I call the city today, and I say, I have my apartment empty, I want to know when you guys can come in here and do the inspection. Give me a second. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Let's wait. What happened if I say, no, we're so busy. You have to give it to us a week.
No, sir. Listen.
Excuse me. That's the way the city is working.
Listen, you are jumping into conclusion.
No, that's what is going to happen.
The reason
that's
why,
what is going to happen.
Listen.
That's exactly what.
The reason why.
And I'm sorry. In the meantime, these people are going to pay for hotel.
Listen, sir, in the city, and I'm sure you have driven throughout the city, we have many slumlords. Okay. And each time we don't do anything and people are victimized because you guys fail to respect your tenants, okay, it's costing us more.
How is it going to cost you more?
We are here to defend our tenants.
To a city more?
Can you imagine you have an apartment building where you have roaches, rats, mold? You think it's okay for us not to do anything about it?
I agree with you 100%.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about code enforcement if you keep your apartment building up to code. But there are, I'm not talking about you personally, but there are some slumlords, and for most of the apartments in the city, have no respect, collecting rents, and let people leave if they are animals. I don't know, sir. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not pointing fingers. All we said, we have to develop a way so that we can protect the tenants that are paying their rent. They are working hard to pay their rents, and it is inconceivable for any landlord to let men, women, elderlies, children, just because they are of another ethnicity, to let them live like pigs. It's unacceptable. I agree with you 100%. And it's not going to happen anymore. No more.
I agree. No more. And let me ask a question.
Yes, sir.
Because supposed to you people see how to have the community.
The what?
To have the community people, to not let this problem happen again. It's not much better to the city sending a letter to everyone in the city, okay? And if they have any complaint, coming to the city and write the complaint.
Sure.
And we write out that application.
You didn't hear these people talking earlier?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Right. And that way we write out the application fee that we have to charge to these people. The people that he working for $6 or $7 an hour.
Sir, you're charging them $900 to $1,200 for one bedroom apartment or
no, I'm so sorry, not in the city of Miami. $1,000 for one bedroom apartment?
Sir, we know the average, okay?
Where?
We know the average.
Where?
We know the average.
96 Avenue.
Okay? So please.
96 Avenue.
Please. Now it's up to you.
Oh, that's why you guys put a lot of low. It's make a lot of money.
Sir. Sir.
That's why?
Sir, we here to protect the tenants.
Uh-huh.
And if we do a walk on 6th Avenue Northeast, I don't think there's so many. I can count less than 4 apartment buildings that are up to code.
Okay.
And if the city was doing what it was supposed to do, all of you guys would have been condemned. Because it is unacceptable.
My brother, you guys can check it out any day you want.
To let people live the way that these people have been living in those buildings. It's not right. You guys are a bunch of people who have no respect for others, no respect for human beings. And now don't come and tell me that defending on poor people. Because you know in what condition they've been living, and you guys are there every first of the month collecting rent, and regardless of the way that they've been living, you guys don't care. Okay? Now we have to do an ordinance in order to protect them. And they are going to be protected. Now you want to raise your rent, is your prerogative. I don't think we have a cap. It's your prerogative. You rented for $2,000, that's your prerogative. But one thing for sure, they're going to be protected.
Oh, look, we live in a country which is, you have a good quality property, you have a business.
Keep it up to code.
Okay,
not all of them
your landlord will give it to you a good service. You're free to move out.
We have some landlords. We have some. No, if they are living with roaches and rats, you're gonna be fine.
I
You
agree
are
with
going
you.
to be fine.
I agree with you.
Okay, and the house is
100%.
not up to code. We're gonna put lien on that house until you fix it
I
the way
know.
it's supposed
And how
to
much
be.
is going to cost the application?
Well, it's up. It's
And how many days the inspection is
Sir,
going to take to do the inspection?
Sir, that's your prerogative.
Because that's my big concern.
Your prerogative. Okay?
That's my big concern. How many
Enough
days
is
is going to
enough.
take to do the
Enough is
inspection?
enough, sir. Enough is enough. Thank you. Anyone else, Mr. H?
And a very interesting evening it is. Mayor, members of the council, Kenneth Each, and I own 3 apartments on Emerald Drive. I've owned them for over 30 years. And Mayor, you said something that you want to protect the tenants. And I thank you, because you're not only protecting the tenants, you're protecting the good landlords like myself. And I consider myself a good landlord. I live on the property. And I have been a proponent of this ordinance for a number of years. When I came back from Illinois, I've been pushing for a rental ordinance. I've invested a great deal of money in my property. And when I was in the police department, Mayor, this goes back over 30 years. 30 years, a long time. I can remember as a lieutenant going out there on 6th Avenue and seeing the same crap then that you see today. It's an absolute disgrace that people have to live in squalor. I always had a philosophy when I was in the police department. I did 33 years. I don't like dope dealers, and I don't like slumlords because they're purveyors of misery and degradation. They take away your human rights, for God's sakes. Some of those apartments back then in the 80s, you'd walk in, the appliances weren't working, the toilets weren't working, the cabinets in there were a disgrace. The floors were ripped up and absolutely preposterous. And I could not, at that time, get code enforcement off their dead rumps to do a darn thing about it. This is going back in the 80s. I've spoken to the city attorney about this ordinance, and I am definitely a proponent of this ordinance, and I want to make it work.
Thank you.
And I have a lot of ideas. I don't know if we're going to have the time tonight to go over them all, but this is important. As a landlord, I would live in any one of my apartments. I don't have a problem with that. Okay? I do not have a problem with that. People deserve a decent, honest place to live in. And I think we have to educate our citizens, and I think we have to educate our landlords. When I went to Illinois after I retired from North Miami, I was chief of police up there for a number of years, 6 years, and I had code enforcement in the police department. And we did have rental inspections. Our city was a lot larger than North Miami. We were in 2 counties. And I have their new ordinance here and what is required. And one of the things that we did was before you could rent an apartment, we went in there and we checked it. The appliances had to be clean and in good working order. The place had to be painted. The floors had to be clean, not ripped up. The windows had to be fixed. The air conditioners had to be worked. The heating system had to work. Everything that you're paying for, you deserve. Okay? And how we made this work is the mayor got a little tired of code enforcement. He put code enforcement in the police department, and we put them into our community resource unit. And what we did was all our community resource officers were trained, as well as you call them public service aides here up there, we call them police cadets. We trained them. We trained all our code enforcement officers. And when a rental application came in, we expedited it for the landlord didn't suffer. I think we charged $75 to $100, and we got that apartment inspected. And listen, I sold my house, and I rented a townhouse. And my guys came in to check it before I moved in there, and I had a ripped screen. That was a gig. You had to get it done. You had to fix it. Had to fix the screen. I mean, we were strict with it. And you know what this does? This improves the property values of everybody. What the heck is the use of me investing thousands of dollars into my property when the guy around the corner is a slum, is a degradation? I took pictures today of a building on Venice Park Drive where the dumpsters were overflowing. This is an absolute disgrace. I walk every day through this city. I do 6-8 miles a day. And I see the crap that's out there. And it breaks my heart. Myself, Mr. Previtel, we work hard. We try to give the people a decent place to live. I have 3 buildings. I've owned them over 30-something years. I work hard to make sure my lawns are manicured. I have nice greenery out there. And I live on the property, okay? And I do not like exploitation. So yes, Mayor, yes, members of the council, city staff, fellow landlords, citizens, tenants. I am in favor 100% of this ordinance.
Thank you, sir.
I definitely am. There's things, and I would ask your indulgence, I would like to get with staff, give them my ideas on how we can make some improvements to this, how we can make this thing work. I think we have, what, approximately 18,000 apartments in the city, ma'am? We have about 18,000 apartments?
I don't know. We don't know the number. We don't have the exact number yet.
Oh, well, it's going to be a virtual impossibility to come in there every year and check it, okay? And I'd like to get with you, and I first of all, if you...
In the
any
ordinance,
kind of
I
rental
think
property.
the city attorney have had provision with the apartments, the percentage of apartments that has to be inspected every year. And again, I'm sure if your apartment is up to code and clean, no complaints, I don't think it's going to be the Swifty one. Because today, the city manager and I were on 122nd and 18th Avenue, 19th Avenue. The windows, I mean, I can't believe human beings are living there.
Horrible, horrible. You know, all of my neighbors that own property on my street agree with this ordinance. The only thing they're saying is, look, hey, we're keeping ours up. Let's go after the bad guys. And there's some finer points here that we can work out, and we can. I don't want a shotgun approach. I know, Mayor, I know what you want to do. I know what the manager wants to do. I know what staff wants to do. And there's ways we can do it without throwing things out there. Let me give you an example. Each building that's a rental, we should have a sign up there telling them, the citizens, what their rights are, like we had in New York City. If you have any complaints, you contact such and such, number one. Number two, we standardize our for rent signs. We put a city logo in it. We have to pay for it. Number three, every tenant gets a welcome package. Okay? If you have a dog, it has to be licensed. You have to pick up its defecation. This is where the garbage goes. This is where that goes. This is what that happens. A welcome package that should be issued, and we should work on this by the city. Okay? We should be able to filter Craigslist, so forth and so on for rental properties. I think in the Bolingbrook ordinance, I have to read it again, but I think if a landlord fails to respond to the to get a rental permit, it's $1,000 a day fine. And we should put teeth into this thing, you know, and we should train our police officers. I'm not trying to say how to run the police department. I've been retired. I have enough gray hair. But our officers should be able to look for those for rent signs out there and say, hey, who has an authorized sign, who doesn't? You inspect the apartment before the tenant moves in, not after. You know, Mayor, there was some,
before, not after.
Not after. Then there were some good points that were brought up. Look, Mayor, I pay an occupational license, a use permit. I pay a multifamily charge on my water bill. I pay a fire permit, my property tax. I pay a lot of things. I don't mind paying, say, $75 or $100 for a rental inspection. And the next time that apartment becomes up available, I got tenants that have been with me almost 20 years. And I paint their apartment. I do, you know, whatever I have to do. I got to say to you, I don't mean to be redundant, but I am just happy that we're pushing this forward. I really am. And there are some fine things here that we can work out. I spoke to my tenants today. I said, you know, we've been here a lot of years. I don't want the government coming into my apartment every year and looking around. So maybe if we do one blanket inspection, and then after that the apartment passes, we go back when we rent the apartment out. And that's going to give you guys the space and the mobility to check these places. And let me tell you, there's ways we got complaints. We go on Haitian radio, and we inform our public, hey, this is your rights. This is what we do. This is how we go after it. We send notices out. We notify all the landlords. And then we know these problem buildings. You know what we do, Mayor? We take a code enforcement officer or a police officer, and as the tenants come out, we give them a handout. And you invite us into your place. You know, I think that's well within our fourth, Council, am I correct on that? That's not a violation of unreasonable search and seizure under our Fourth or Fifth Amendment.
To send notices?
No, to give a notice out to the tenants as they come out. Hey, we're going in there and check your apartment. Because what you told me today, I've seen this. Mayor, I've seen this as a police officer, as a chief, and it's just, I find this despicable.
Yeah. Let me recognize, I didn't see Councilman Galvin here. Councilman District 3.
If you would, before we have second reading on this ordinance or our first reading, if I would have a little wiggle room, maybe a couple of weeks to get with staff, and if possible.
Okay, Councilwoman Keys has some ideas as well that she would like to share regarding that ordinance. You
Oh,
wanna do that?
just one more thing, and I'll get off the mic. I know you want me to get the hell off this stuff.
No, we
But
just have to
I
move on with
think that every, it's a house, a duplex, or a triplex, it should be inspected, because some of our slumlords own duplexes and single-family homes. And you know what? Once you start renting that house out, they should have an occupational license, a use permit, just like everybody else. It's now a business. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Provatel, give me a sec. I think you want. Okay, go ahead, Bill. And then Councilwoman. She wants to finish it, right? Yeah, she has a couple of things about.
Good evening. Bill William Prevatel, 11950 North Bay Shore Drive. I'd like to thank the mayor for her translations this evening. I don't know if mine need to be translated or not. I guess we're a translator. What I'd like to share is on top of, I support very much what former police chief and current planning commissioner Kenneth Each just said. I support that very much. And I also would like to echo support for not having necessarily a shotgun approach, but a more focused approach. In addition to some of the agencies, they said we are already, as landlords, are accountable, but we are accountable for inspections already to the city of North Miami, to Miami-Dade Fire and Rescue, to Miami-Dade Elevators, to Miami-Dade and Florida pool inspections, private alarm systems that require recertifications. We have licenses for North Miami, the county, as well as the state, and occupational license and such. We pay taxes and fees for all of the above, plus legal entity registrations. Then when you get through all of that, you can fix all your other regular concerns throughout the building. And the reason you want to fix them is just for our market system, that you really want to have everything in proper working order so that you can get these things properly rented. If they're not in proper working order, then you're going to wind up losing tenants, and that's generally the way things work. But I'd like to sort of use an analogy that might be our local fire department. We have our 50, 60,000 people, whatever it might be, in our community, and what might be 18,000 apartments. We don't have a fire department on every corner. And we don't also have the fire department spraying down the houses in advance and constantly keeping them wet when there's a serious situation. And I must say, we've heard some very serious situations tonight that need to be resolved immediately. These people are in some very bad situations, and they need to be resolved like fires and focused in terms of our efforts. And the point is that, as I mentioned at the council meeting, it would be nice if we do not turn into a police state where this is so diverse and becomes so cumbersome that it grinds both our city staff as well as the tenants and the landlords in just this quagmire of bureaucracy. If it can be focused, if there could be some merit relationship that once apartments are focused or buildings are inspected, there might be some waiver of time before reinspection, it would all be helpful to focus those efforts. And just finally, I guess the sort of the good news is, even though we have some extreme situations in our city, not that it's necessarily good news, but this is probably not that much different, that every city of about our size would have a handful of serious, serious problems. And every city, not just ours, needs to address those concerns. So I thank everybody's input, and I thank your consideration.
Good evening, Carol Keys, Councilwoman, District 2. The reason I'm here this evening was to have discussion with our council on a 38-page document. There's a lot of items in here that affect more than just landlord-tenant. It affects every property owner in the city. I just had a few items I wanted to go over with the attorney. I had hoped that our council would be here so they could hear and give direction to our attorney about it. I will say, however, that I was able to inspect a building with staff today, our attorney, our manager, Councilman Galvin was there. The building was deplorable, and we really have a need to protect our citizens who are living in the city, because this building, which is not one of our worst buildings, did not even come close to meeting the minimum housing standards. There were doors missing, the floors were filthy, the walls were filthy, the plumbing didn't have all the fixtures, and this is what people are living in. And we do have to take care of that. As far as the registration, if I'm not mistaken, we're not asking for a landlord to register every time they have a tenant. And that gentleman is gone, but I don't think that was the purpose. The purpose is that we have a registration for all landlords. And I'm going to go through a couple of those items. And we're looking at, in generalities, we're looking at an annual inspection, and I'm wondering if maybe we should scatter them. Also, do we really need an annual inspection for new construction? You know, if you have a brand new building, I don't know that you need to go in for minimum housing immediately the next year. So those are items we should be addressing on this. Just going briefly, and unfortunately the mayor's not here to here. I've waited 2 hours so she could listen to this, but now a lot of this does affect the citizens at homes. One is shutters, and these are on homes. This has nothing to do with landlords. We do, on page 8, you have shutters on the street, and we have a time limit for shutters, and we've limited it to as long as you have doors. But going through neighborhoods, a lot of places are boarded up, and I think we should address and think about if shutters are on the outside of a home, visible from the street, there should be a time limit for those, because they're really, we have had a house around the corner from me. The boards have been up there for about 8 years. So we need to, I think, address time limits on shutters that you can see from the street. In the back, for security purposes, that's a different story. On page 9, applicability. I have gone over this with staff, but people need to be really aware of what's going on here. And this states that every house in the city must meet minimum standards. There's a lot of requirements. Every house, no matter when it was constructed, altered, or repaired, has to meet the code. And I am concerned we have an issue with occupancy inspections. And right now, when a person goes to sell their house has to be pretty much brought up to code. If they don't have the permits, people are being forced to take down. Thank you for coming back, because this has to do with homes. It's not just landlord tenants.
Okay, I'm trying to find someone to lower the AC because it's freezing in here.
But I need you to understand what this is affecting all citizens, not just landlords. You want my blanket? I have a blanket in my. Okay. This provision applies minimum standards to everybody's home. And when someone goes to sell their house, if they don't have a permit, if they're not meeting minimum standards, people are having to bring their homes up to code before they can do it, or they're having to get conditional reoccupancies. They're spending $5,000 and taking many months to do that. And this is a separate item we're going to have to talk about with the reoccupancy, but this applicability states that every house has to be up to code. That's tough for our, my house is 60 years old, and I was born in that house. My parents did a lot of stuff before code. We've lost permits, we've lost records, and to think that everything in my house was done up to code with permits, it's not. And I think probably 95% of the homes that were built here, we were all built like in the 50s and 60s, have work done, and this is going to affect every single resident. I did mention shutters, that we have a limit of how long you can keep shutters on a home. And it lets you say, well, as long as you have a door, you can have your shutters. But I think if a house is shuttered up, there should be a limit. When you can see it from the street, having boarded up houses is just horrible for blight. And I think it's something that should be addressed on page 8. Mm-hmm. Going to page 16 real quickly. Something maybe in the building code, but it does say that every apartment building, they're supposed to have railings. And we were in this building today, and one of the railings at the top of the stairs was really low. It might have kept a child, but an adult just stepping up and losing their balance would have toppled over the railing. So I don't know if it's somewhere else in the building code to address height of railings, but I think we need to look at that. It's item 5.17. If it's not in our building code, we need to.
It's 517.
5.17, page 16.
Mhm.
It just says that we're supposed to have railings.
Correct.
If it's not in the building code that railings have to be a certain height, the railing at the top of the stairs on the 4th floor, like that was not adequate. So we need to address and make sure that we have a higher height for that. Page 18 and 19, 5.23. This affects all the homeowners, and it's regarding landscaping. And what it says is the property owner is responsible for replacing any plant material that has died or removed. So anybody who has a dead tree, who takes it away or removes a tree, is responsible for putting back that tree. I don't know if we want to be that strict with our owners. Maybe they can't afford, or maybe they don't want a tree, but we're going to make them replace that tree. So I think that should be a little more lenient.
That's 523.
Page 18 and 19, it's section 5.23G, and it's requiring owners to replace their trees.
Okay. Now I see removal of branches hanging low.
Go to page 19.
Right. Which A, B, C?
G.
Which one?
G.
J. Okay. G. Okay.
So if you've got a dead tree, you have to replace it. And that is not so cheap. And if you're...
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
Okay, so I mean, it's simple, but we don't want to start putting...
Because trees are extremely expensive.
They are, and if you don't have the ability to plant it, then you have to pay someone to plant it. You got a dead tree, all of a sudden it's going to cost you a few $100s to get it hauled away and then replace it. So, okay, page 21.
Can I just make a suggestion? Perhaps maybe responsible, 'cause you want to have some latitude in order to enforce if appropriate, and it may not be necessary for each particular circumstance, but you certainly want to give the city the option if it's necessary. So you're not required, you're not responsible, but you may be responsible.
Well, you are or you aren't, and you can say, hey, you have to replace your tree. It might be even in the back. It's very broad.
Well, that's the point. So rather than is responsible, which means you're automatically responsible, right? That's the language now. It says the property owner is responsible. What I'm suggesting is to change it to the property owner may be responsible.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay. Page 21, and I don't have that many, but we have stormwater. It's 5.24F, and I brought this up at the council meeting, and it says that every person's going to keep stormwater from accumulating on their premises. We want to make sure that people's stormwater is not draining into the canals or onto their neighbor's property. So do we have a different stormwater provision? That's 5.24F.
F.
So if they can't keep stagnant water, we've got to make sure they're not sending their stagnant water to their neighbor's property or throwing it in the canals and polluting. So I would like that addressed, make sure that that's somewhere else in the stormwater building code. Page 24. 5.30, Madam Attorney, we discussed this minimum floor area, A, and that conflicts.
Page 24.
Page 24, it's 5-30A, minimum floor area, where it says every floor area shall contain a minimum area of at least 250 for the first occupant. Our LDRs say that it is 750 is a minimum size for any apartment. So, Madam Attorney, did you fix that?
It's going to say subject to the LDR.
Okay. Thank you. But you added some language that it's subject to LDRs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. 34. Page 34, and this is for people who own multiple properties. 5.41E, it's a little bit broad, and this is getting a license as a landlord, and the reasons you can turn down a landlord's license. One of them, G, the applicant is delinquent in the payment of any permit fee imposed under this article, code enforcement lien, etc. And if you own more than one property, that, in one respect, that's good. But if you have a person who is delinquent in any lien in the city, you don't get a license for that property.
I agree. I
Okay.
agree. Yes.
Okay, so you agree?
Yep.
Just pointing it out.
I agree with that one.
My last
That upsets
issue is on page 36.
Okay.
And we are asking the landlord, we're doing inspections. I'm agreeing on inspections. I think if we keep it to a minimum amount, $10, $25, it's only going to be costing the tenants maybe $1 or $2 a month in their rent if you want to pass these inspection fees on. But they're asking in B, 5-44B, the tenant list shall include for each tenant the tenant's full name, date of birth, and Florida ID or driver's license number, and tenant signature. This is an impossibility. This is not something you're going to get. And I hate putting this in there and us not being able to enforce it.
No, you don't want to put it there because some of the tenants have family members who live with them. Because of immigration purpose, they will never give you the name of the person.
And
I
you're
think
not
we
going to
need
get
to
all
protect their privacy as well. For a Florida ID number, that's right.
So I'm just saying I think it's good to maintain a list of your tenants. I think the landlords really should have a list of who's living there, because when you have a 2-bedroom apartment, you should not be having 8 people living there. That contributes. And I feel for the landlords, because when you rent an apartment to a family with 2 children and all of a sudden there's another 3 or 4 people, that puts wear and tear on their building. And I've been in these apartments, and some of the landlords are bad, but when you've got 8 people living in an apartment that's meant for 3 or 4, tremendous wear, it breaks down. I've had it happen to me. I had a house where I rented, and all of a sudden there was like 10 people living in the house.
It's an economical situation. For example, after that house collapsed, that roof collapsed on the 26th of December, many of the tenants that were living in that building had to move in with family members.
That's temporary. I'm
Right,
talking.
but
I
still.
think we should try to get a list of who's living there so we know who is there, but getting licenses and signatures is not going to work.
No.
And
you know, for these buildings, whenever somebody go and apply for an apartment, they do make them pay a processing fee. Most of them do.
Yes.
Either because they want to check their credit or some type of processing fee when they go for an apartment. So the landlord never said what they do with that money. It's their thing, but having the apartment not up to code and renting it after they take these people's money, that's a no-no.
And what I mentioned before while you were out is I don't believe that this requires an inspection every time they rent. We had discussed it. It was brought up. That's not what's going to happen. The gentleman who came up here and said he wants to rent, it's going to take 3 days. That's not what this ordinance is going to do. It's going to make everybody register, get their license, get their inspections, and be subject to additional inspections, not every time they rent. So it's not going to be per tenant. That being said, just because we're in a public, except it's just you and me, Mayor. We talked about money coming from the CRA, and that the CRA had money for employees. I think that we should hire, because I was speaking to some of the officers out there today, that we have a lack of officers. There was a pool up on the roof where we were. We needed Mr. Jackson to come out. He's going to have to come out and inspect to see if the roof is safe, because you've got this pool. We were scared to death to walk up on this roof. I am going to request in public that we hire an additional building inspector, enforcement officer, to help. We're going to need, for these inspections,
in case
we need
that
an
Mr.
additional
Jackson
person.
is not available, and from what I understand, see, there are 2 issues here with the building department. It's 70% or 75% privatized, which is something that we need to look into. When we had that issue on 126 and 126th Street and 11 or 12th Avenue in those apartments, when the ceiling collapsed, it seems like when Mr. Jackson is not available, they call consultants. When we're supposed to have somebody, when Mr. Jackson is not there,
we should have on staff. We should not
have
be
staff, and
Exactly.
this is a department that brings the most money in the city, and I don't understand why they're trying to privatize it.
Well,
and this needs to be addressed. If we have incompetent employees, they need to go. If we don't have enough employees, we need to hire more, because this is the department where we have the most complaints.
But I would like an
in
in-house.
the entire city. It has to be done in-house. We need to hire city employees to do the work. If the city employees are not competent, we need to look for competent people to do the work. And there are competent people out there.
Well, I'd like the CRA to hire a full-time inspector, minimum housing inspector who has the ability to do these licenses. I think this is something that the CRA would allow, seeing that we could limit it to the CRA areas, but almost all of our situation is in the CRA area.
Well,
And I think-
this is something that needs to be explored.
And I want to bring it out in public and not discuss it.
Okay.
In defense of Mr. Cheminsky over there, I do understand, I mean, we have these permits. This was supposed to expedite our permits. It has not expedited. Dealing in the real estate, people are complaining. It is taking them forever. I understand, Mr. Cheminsky, it took him 6 weeks to get his permit. for
No,
the roof.
he was fine back in July
Okay, fine.
30th.
But he still waited 6
July.
weeks.
Well, he went in October to apply for that
But then
permit.
it took him another 6 weeks.
Well,
And even if whether he was fined or not, it's still taking too long for
I
people to get
understand that.
permits.
So this is, I think we need to do something in that department. And the one thing I want to make clear for everybody, there is no other department in the city that is going to be privatized. No other department in the city that is going to be privatized.
Because I don't think we should, but we should get another we definitely need another minimum housing.
Definitely.
And just your opinion on the applicability of that code, that all houses need to be brought up to code.
To code. Before they can be sold.
Well,
Is that what you're
doesn't
saying?
it doesn't even have to be before they're sold. They have to be brought up to, if someone goes in there for an inspection, maybe to get a permit, if the city goes in and sees things aren't up to code, they're not going to be able to get permits on what they're trying to do.
I don't know. Have you been to that department? You know, we used to have those applications out there, and they're no longer there. Everything has to be done by the computer. And I know in the city we have a very high percentage of people that are not computer literate. So it just prevent them from doing, the application the old ways. We should give them both opportunities to do it, either in writing or do it through the computer.
I'm just concerned about putting a really large burden on the citizens who have bought houses with open
Councilman
permits.
Bien-Aimé is here. This is Councilman Philippe Bien-Aimé, District 3. Mr. Bien-Aimé, can you please stand up to be recognized? See, they are looking back there for that person. He's right here.
And then I'm going to request from the attorney, I'll probably hold it, will be a reoccupancy, separate workshop on reoccupancy. The realtors are having a terrible time in the city getting the houses sold because, again, if everything is not up to 100% code, they can't sell their homes. And it's a problem, and we changed our ordinance.
Some part where their grandfathers, a couple of those houses
There's no
where they...
under this, there's no grandfathering.
Okay.
No grandfathering. If you have something that's done without a permit, or you don't have a permit, or you've got a problem, there is no grandfathering under this code. I think it's a little too strict. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great. Thank you. Next council meeting, we need to come. I don't know whether it's doing your report as a council person. We need to address the issue of the department, the licensing, the fact that people, when they need to have a permit or even a permit of occupancy, they have to go from one building, then they have to come here, then they have to go back. It's a nonsense. This is the first time a government is working the way that we are working. We are not people friendly. We are not business friendly. Somebody who's trying to open a business, they're giving a heck of a time. It takes them 8 months to open a business, where our task tax base sits on businesses, and we're giving them a hard time to open up. So I think there's a lot of workshop that we need to do, and many other things that we need to look at and change at the same time, because the way they are going, most complaints are regarding the building department, where 90% of the people are very dissatisfied with the service they are getting there. Okay. Have you spoken, Mr. Prevatel? I'm sorry, I missed it. Anyone else would like to speak? Madam City Attorney, you okay? We done?
Yes, I
Good.
have no comments.
All right. I'm not asking for a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bien-Aimé, would you like to say a couple of words? Councilman? We're good. Okay. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. Please remember, anything, any concern, we are here in the city to serve you. You are the reason why we are here. So do not wait until it's too late or something happens to your family members before you can come. You come to the city, you go to a department, you don't get the service you deserve, you go to the next level. You have to keep complaining and find somebody. You go to the department, you don't get the service, you ask to see the manager of that department. You don't get the department, or the manager does not give you the service, you ask to see the city manager. And city manager does not serve you, then you go to your council person. It's important for you not to give us, because we are here to serve you, and we want to ensure that everybody is respected in the city and have the service that they deserve. Having said that, good night, everybody, and thank you for coming.